Of course, let's break this cozy myth that half the world was simply conquered by dirty pony men who accidentally missed the pasture and hit the Adriatic Sea. Listen here. The Mongol Empire is not a collection of spit. It's Apple in a world of medieval states. Only instead of iPhones, they handed out arrows in their knees and perfect logistics. Imagine an army approaching an impregnable Chinese city. Instead of clawing their heads at the wall, these savages get their blueprints, summon Chinese and Persian engineers, whom they have not wisely killed, unlike the night-patriots, and in a couple of days build siege machines that turn stone walls into dust. Mongols were the main fans of high-tech. If you knew how to do something more difficult than waving your sword, congratulations, you are in the state. You have a social package and you go to design catapults under Horus. Do you think they just ran and yelled? It was the most disciplined death machine in history. While in Europe, the Mongols waited 3 weeks for a choner at the can bank. The Mongol Yam system, express mail, was working. The horsemen changed horses at the stations and delivered orders with the speed of modern DHL. They did not attack. They performed the symphony. A false retreat, a diversion, a twist, a perfect coverage of the flanks. If the decimalist said stand, they will stand even if a fiery rain falls. In Europe at this time, every earl considered himself the smartest and went into battle whenever he wanted. The result is predictable. Mongols were so brazen that they established the world's first global market. They said that a virgin with a golden tray on her head could go from the Yellow Sea to the Crimea and no one would touch her. Why? Because after a curved look towards the wayfarer, a twister would come to your home, 10,000 horsemen, and explain the rules of hospitality by completely erasing your city from a map. It was a very efficient management. No city, no tax problems. While in Europe, they were burning for mistranslation of the Bible. Genghis didn't give a damn about whom you prayed to, Odin, Buddha, or Havratek. The main thing is to pay taxes and not revolt. In his capital, Karakorum, mosque, church, and temple stood in line, not out of love for humans, but because why fight over the gods when they all work under blue heaven and work on my budget? While the European army was dragging its way with wine, cough, and prostitutes, slowing down to the speed of the snail, the Mongol was carrying only a horse. To be precise, 5 horses. He could not fall from his saddle to drink the horse's blood, literally cutting into its vein, and eat the anemic meat that was being prepared under the horse's saddle by the heat of the horse. It was an army that didn't need food logistics because they were both food, transport, and weapons. It was not a band of losers, but a multinational corporation that carried out the most aggressive rebranding of Eurasia in history. They did not destroy the civilization. They formatted it, set up their operating system, Yasu, and removed the dividends. Brew tea or cougar. Now there will be a protracted course on how to turn the color of European knighthood into canned minced meat in 2 days. In 1241, the Mongols decided that it was time to visit Europe. To avoid being prevented from capturing Hungary, they sent a diversionary detachment, the Baydar and Kaidu Corps, to Poland. Just clean up the flanks. Against them came the combined forces of Poles, German Templars, and Teutonic Knights under the command of Henry the Pious. Battle of Legnica. Listen to what it was like. Europeans rolled their elite. Heavy cavalry, thick lats from the refrigerator door, huge horses. They looked at the Mongols on their ponies as a misunderstanding. The Mongols looked at the knights as a slow meal in convenient packaging. The Mongols used their favorite trick, which Europeans bought with the blindingly stubborn idiots. The light cavalry of the Mongols fired a pair of arrows, depicted panic, and gave a day. The knights, shouting "God is with us," and glory, broke free. Their heavy horses quickly became tired. The line stretched and the heavy armor began to work as personal soundness. When the knights were far enough away from their infantry, the Mongols set fire to the reeds and dry grass. Where they used smoke bombs, they did it well. Between the knights and their support, a wall of smoke arose. The knights were isolated, and then the fleeing Mongols suddenly turned around, and fresh pieces jumped out from the hills. Mongolian bows were able to access the armor of that time for flight. The knights, locked in their latches, could not even strike at the enemy. The Mongols simply circled around, keeping their distance, and methodically turned the noble gentlemen into needle cushions. When it was over, the Mongols cut off one ear from each of the dead to count trophies. In the end, they filled 9 giant bags with the ears of Europe's elites. Henry himself was beheaded and his head worn at the peak beneath the city walls, purely to lift the spirits of the locals. While Poland was in a coma, another Mongol corps, Subutai and Beatty, multiplied by 0 the Hungarian army at the Battle of the Sheo River. Subutai, a tactical genius, simply surrounded their camp and left the corridor for retreat. The Hungarians ran joyfully into this gap, stretched in a narrow line, and the Mongols ran for 6 days along this line, cutting them as if on a conveyor. Hungary lost 80% of its army in one day. Within a week, the Mongols destroyed 2 of the largest military forces in Central Europe. If it were not for the time when they had a Grand Khan in Mongolia, which is why they had to go home and pick new ones, today in Paris and Rome would be sitting in yurts, drinking salt tea, and living in very high-quality wicker tents. So, now it's clear why the heavy knight for a Mongolian archer is just a slow target with a funny helmet. Meet Subutai Bagatur, nicknamed the fierce dog of Genghis Khan. Whereas Genghis Khan was the CEO of Mongolian Empire, Subutai was the chief operating officer who personally opened and closed branches. Forever. Here are the dry facts about a man whose resume makes Napoleon cry in the corner. Subutai won 65 general battles and conquered 32 states, marching from China to the Adriatic. Napoleon in his background is a middle manager who is stuck in traffic near Moscow. Subutai simply did not notice boundaries. For him, mountains, rivers, and foreign armies were only the annoying irregularities of the relief. He was the first in history to realize that armies could be managed separately for hundreds of kilometers and then combined at one point with an accuracy of up to an hour. Example, the invasion of Europe. His corps went 5 different ways across half the continent without seeing each other and met under Buda and Pesh just when they were appointed. In the 13th century, without rations and GPS, it's like you send 5 couriers from different parts of the city at rush hour and they all arrive at your entrance in a second. In 1223, he came to Russia simply for reconnaissance. United princes rose against him. Subutai pretended to flee for 12 days until the Russian princes had cut themselves off and stretched their forces. Summary: the princes were defeated and those who surrendered were placed under a wooden floor on which the Mongols sat to feast. The princes were suffocating under the weight of the celebrating winners. Cynical? Maximum. But for Subutai, it was simply an efficient way to dispose of VIP prisoners without excess blood. By the end of his life, Subutai was so fat, old, and bruised, he lacked eyes and a living space on his body that he could not hold himself in the saddle. He was driven in a special wagon. Imagine, you are the king. You have shining armor, lock, and patwa. You are facing a cart with a decrepit grandfather who in one motion of his eyebrows orders the archers to shoot your cavalry and then goes further because he has to conquer another couple of countries before lunch. He never lost. In general, not at all. For his entire career, 0 defeats. He took cities that were thought to be impregnable simply because I must. If a wall was in front of him, he would build catapults. If there was a river, he built pontoon bridges or made horses swim. For Subutai, there was no word impossible, only the word rational. Subutai is the embodiment of Mongol military thought. No chivalry honor, only calculation, speed, and total annihilation of those who obstruct the business plan. Subutai's last order was the most ironic for a man who had been halfway around the world. He was sent to retire from his cattle herd. In 1246, the new Great Khan Gayuk decided that a 73-year-old man who knew more about war than any other living person on the planet was too dangerous or simply deserved peace. He was officially relieved of all public duties and sent to his native nomads by the River Tull. The greatest strategist in history, conqueror of 32 countries and winner of 65 battles, spent his last 2 years watching sheep and enjoying silence. He died in his yurt in 1248. The only enemy he could never defeat was old age.